The council chamber smelled of fear. Not the sharp, panicked kind. This was older, heavier, the kind that had settled in long before the meeting began, and refused to leave. Councillor Kareth stood at the center of the room, his plated fingers locked behind his back. The projection before him showed a single image repeated again and again. Burning colony. Ships with no markings, bodies dragged away in cargo nets. They are moving faster than predicted, Kareth said quietly. Around him, the other councillors shifted. Chiton scraped stone. Wings twitched. Antennae flattened. The Syndicate does not rush, one elder muttered. They harvest. They are harvesting us, Kareth replied. Silence fell at the far edge of the chamber. Commander Vesh folded all four of his arms across his chest. He was larger than most of them, his exoskeleton scarred from years of frontier combat. You are exaggerating, Vesh said. We still have patrol ships. Against cruisers? Kareth turned. Against nullifiers? Vesh's mandibles tightened. He said nothing. The image shifted. A symbol appeared. 3 concentric circles, broken by a diagonal slash dot. The Syndicate. Mark. They took Kalrith, Kareth continued. Then Juno's Reach. Then the mining belts. Each time, faster, cleaner. They want labor, an elder whispered. And leverage. They want to remind us that we are alone, Kareth said. A low vibration ran through the chamber as something ancient powered up beneath the floor. A failsafe. A warning system older than the council itself. Vesh felt his stomach not say it, he said. You didn't call this meeting to talk strategy. Kareth exhaled slowly. We are out of options. Several heads snapped toward him. No, one councillor hissed. Not that. We swore never again. Last time nearly destroyed the frontier. Kareth's eyes hardened. Last time saved it. Vesh felt cold creep into his joints. You're talking about them. Yes, Kareth said. The humans. A murmur spread. Fear, disbelief, anger. They are weak, Vesh said automatically. No unified fleet. No standing armada. They barely qualify as a power. And yet, Kareth said, tapping the projection, no Syndicate raid has succeeded against the human settlement in over 2 cycles. That proves nothing, Vesh snapped. It proves something, Kareth said. They learned. The image changed again. Grainy footage. A Syndicate boarding party breaching a small human station. The footage ended 30 seconds. Later, no survivors, no explosion, just silence. They don't fight like we do, Kareth continued. They don't broadcast victory. They don't chase glory. What do? Vesh asked. Kareth met his gaze. They end problems. Vesh felt his antennae twitch. And you want to unleash them? The word hung in the air. Kareth nodded once. Yes. They are not our allies. They don't need to be. They don't answer to us. They don't answer to anyone. That, more than anything, terrified the room. Vesh stepped forward. You're asking us to gamble the frontier on a species that barely survived its own extinction cycles. Kareth's voice dropped.
Oh.
I'm asking us to survive. Another projection appeared. Syndicate. Cruisers. Estimated arrival. 4 rotations. We cannot evacuate in time, Kareth said. We cannot fight them head-on. We cannot bargain. Vesh clenched his fists. So you want me to go beg? No, Kareth said softly. I want you to warn. Them. Vesh froze. Me? You know their space? You've fought near their borders? I've fought pirates, Vesh shot back. not myths. Kareth leaned closer. You've seen the aftermath. Vesh looked away. Yes, he had ships. Cut apart with crude weapons that ignored energy fields. Boarding scars that made no tactical sense. Syndicate crews found intact. And terrified? They won't listen, Vesh said. They will, Kareth replied. Because this time, the Syndicate is coming for everyone. A long pause followed. Finally, Vesh straightened. If this goes wrong, it won't matter, Kareth interrupted. If we do nothing, we're already dead. The chamber lights dimmed as the decision locked in. A single directive flashed across the council display. Last resort protocol. Vesh stared at it. Unleash the humans. 2 weeks later. At the edge of human space, Vesh stood outside a structure. That did not look like a military installation. It looked like a bar. Music spilled into vacuum-sealed corridors. Laughter echoed. The smell of cooked food leaked through imperfect seals. The sign above the door flickered. The last stop. Vesh tightened his grip on his weapons and stepped inside. Every instinct he had screamed one thing. If the stories were true, this was either salvation or the moment the frontier learned what fear really was. The bar went quiet the moment Vesh stepped inside, not silent. The music kept playing. Glasses still clinked. Someone laughed too loudly near the back, but the attention shifted, like gravity pulling in one direction. Vesh felt it immediately. Humans, they were everywhere and nowhere obvious at the same time. Some sat openly at tables. Boots on chairs, laughing like nothing in the galaxy could touch them. Others leaned against walls, eyes half-lidded, looking bored. Those were the dangerous ones. Vesh knew the type. Soldiers pretending not to be soldiers. No uniforms. No insignia. Just people. That made it worse. He moved slowly toward the bar wings. Tied against his back. His armor was clean, formal. A council envoy's armor. It made him stand out, like a beacon. A human bartender watched him approach. Older male. Grey hair pulled back. Mechanical hand polishing a glass with lazy precision. You're a long way from home, the bartender said, without looking up. Vesh paused. I was told this was neutral ground. The bartender finally met his eyes. His gaze was calm, curious, not afraid. Everything's neutral, the man said. Until it isn't, Vesh swallowed. I need to speak to whoever represents human interests here. A soft chuckle came from somewhere behind him. Careful, a female voice said. That sentence scares people. Vesh turned. She stood near a corner booth, boots on the table, chair tipped back against the wall. Young too, relaxed. A plasma scar ran along her jawline like a smile that never faded. There's no such job, she continued. You're either talking to someone who doesn't matter, or someone who doesn't want the job. Vesh inclined his head. Then I'll take the second option. The woman grinned. Bold. She gestured with her chin. Sit. Vesh hesitated, then moved to the booth. The bartender slid him a drink without asking. It smelled sharp and unpleasant. What's your name? The woman asked. Commander Vesh of the Outer Ring Compact. She winced theatrically. Wow, that's very official. She tapped the table once. I'm Mara. Just Mara? That's how names work? Vesh glanced around. And the others? Mara shrugged. Depends who you mean. Before Vesh could press further, a shadow fell across the table. A man stood there. tall and lean, wearing a dark coat that looked older than the station itself. No visible weapons. No visible armor. Every instinct, Vesh had screamed danger. The man did not sit. He looked at Vesh like one might look at a malfunctioning machine. "You're early," the man said. Vesh's antennae twitched. "We agreed on this time." "No," the man replied. "You arrived before the Syndicate." Mara's grin faded just a little. Vesh felt his chest tighten. "Then you already know why I'm here." The man's eyes flicked to Mara. "You wanna tell him, or should I?" Mara sighed. "Fine, I'll play diplomat." She leaned forward. "You're here because your people are about to get erased, and you've run out of smart choices." Vesh stiffened. "We're not asking for you." "Ah," the man interrupted. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. "You're asking us to step in." Vesh met his gaze. "Yes." The bar noise seemed to dim, though nothing actually changed. The man studied him for a long moment. "Why?" he asked. Vesh took a breath. "Because the Syndicate is coming with cruisers and nullifiers, because they've bought protection from the core. Because if they take us, they'll control the entire frontier." "And that helps us how?" "Mara?" asked Vesh hesitated. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. "Wrong answer," Vesh forced himself to continue. "Because after us, they won't stop." Mara leaned back. "Better." "They're already experimenting with human trafficking," Vesh added. "Small numbers. Quiet routes." That did it. The man's posture changed. Barely. But Vesh felt it like pressure in the air. Mara's expression hardened. "You sure about that?" Vesh nodded. "Confirmed." The man exhaled slowly. "Figures." Silence stretched finally. Mara spoke. "You know what you're asking, right?" "Yes," Vesh said. "You won't be able to stay neutral." The man gave a thin smile. "We were never neutral." Mara glanced around the bar. "Problem is numbers. Even if every human colony in this sector shows up, we can't outgun cruisers." "We don't need to," Vesh said quietly. Both humans looked at him. "The Syndicate refuels," Vesh continued. "Predictable routes. Fixed stations. They're arrogant." The man's eyes sharpened. Mara's smile returned, slow and dangerous. "Boarding actions." "Exactly." The man tilted his head. "Risque. Yes. Messy. Yes. Illegal." Vesh hesitated. "Yes." Mara laughed. "Oh, this is going to be fun." The man raised a hand. The laughter around the bar faded, just a fraction. Conversations dulled. People listened. "How long until they arrive?" he asked. "For rotations?" The man nodded once. "Enough." "Time. For what?" Vesh asked Dot. The man finally sat down across from him. "To remind the Syndicate," he said calmly, "why humans don't advertise when they go to war." Vesh felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Hope and fear. Because whatever the humans decided next, the frontier would never be the same again. "If you're ready, just say." The meeting did not end with cheers or handshakes. It ended with silence. The kind of silence where decisions had already been made. And everyone knew there was no turning back. Vesh left the booth feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Mara walked beside him as they exited the bar. The tall human in the dark coat followed a few steps behind, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning everything without looking like he was scanning anything at all. "You're shaking," Mara said casually. Vesh forced his wings still. I am not. She smirked. Sure. They stepped into the station corridor. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and hot metal. Ships hummed through the walls. Somewhere far above, engines flared. So, Mara said, clapping her hands once, welcome to the worst alliance in frontier history. Vesh turned to her. You're really going to help us? She looked at him sideways. We're really going to help ourselves? The man in black stopped walking. Mara stopped to Vesh. Followed their gaze dotted the far end of the corridor. Station security had appeared. 6 figures. Heavily armed. Not Syndicate muscle station uniforms, but their stance was wrong. Too stiff. Too alert. The man sighed. That didn't take long. Mara muttered, guess the walls really do talk. The security captains stepped forward. You 3. Remain where you are. Vesh's heart pounded. Is this normal? No, Mara said lightly. This is the part where things go bad. The man in black spoke, calm and flat. Captain, this doesn't concern you. The captain sneered. Everything on this station concerns me. You're hosting a known non-citizen agitator. He pointed at Vesh and 2 humans suspected of unlicensed weapons trafficking. Mara raised her hands. Whoa, suspected. That hurts. The captain raised his rifle. Hands where I can see them. The man in black did not move. Vesh felt a subtle vibration pass through the floor. Low, deep. Mara noticed it too. Her grin widened. Oh, she said. You really shouldn't have done that. What? The captain began. The station lights flickered. Once, twice, then every powered weapon in the corridor went dead. Rifles went silent, visors darkened. The captain's armor lights blinked out. The man in black stepped forward. He moved. Fast. Too fast. In one smooth motion, he took the rifle from the captain's hands and snapped it in half like a toy. Another guard lunged. Mara spun, kicking the guard's knee sideways with a crack that made Vesh flinch. It was over in seconds. 6 guards lay groaning on the floor. No one dead? No alarms blaring? Mara flexed her fingers. Told you illegal. Vesh stared. You shut down the station's grid. The man shook his head. Just this section. Vesh's antennae trembled. You did that manually? The man met his eyes. I told you. Humans don't advertise. They didn't linger. Bynets. Later, they were aboard a small human transport. The interior was cramped, functional, scarred by past repairs. Vesh strapped himself into a seat meant for 2 arms, not for Mara, tossed him a data slate. Routes, she said. Fuel stations. Timetables, Vesh scrolled. His eyes widened. This is Syndicate-level intel. Yeah, she replied. They pissed off the wrong people over the years. The ship lurched gently as it detached. Vesh glanced toward the cockpit. Where are we going? The man in black answered, without turning around. To convince the colonies, Vesh hesitated. What if they refuse? Mara looked back at him. Her smile was sharp now. They won't. Hours later, Vesh stood in a human assembly hall, carved into an asteroid. No banners, no throne. Just rows of people. Farmers, pilots, mechanics, mercenaries, children playing near the back. The man in black stood at the center. He did not shout, he did not threaten. He spoke plainly. The Syndicate is moving. He said, they're coming into the frontier with cruisers. They think they own it. Murmurs spread. They already traffic humans, he continued. Quietly. That ends now. A voice called out. Why should we care about some bug colony? Vesh stiffened. The man gestured toward Vesh. Because today, it's them. Tomorrow, it's us. Silence fell. Mara stepped forward. They've got warships. We don't beat that head-in. A mechanic scoffed. Then what's the plan? The man smiled. We board them. The room erupted. Arguments. Laughter. Fear. Vesh felt his hope slipping. Then a woman in a flight jacket stood up. If we don't stop them here, they'll own the lanes. A miner followed. I lost a cousin to Syndicate slavers. Another voice. How much does this pay? Mara grinned. Cruisers are worth a lot. The noise shifted. Not fear anymore. Interest. Hours later, ships began to undock. Old freighters, armed shuttles, converted miners. Ugly ships. Dangerous ships. Vesh watched in awe. You're really doing this, he whispered. The man in black stood beside him. We don't like bullies. Mara cracked her knuckles. And we really don't like organized ones. Vesh felt the weight of it settle in. The Syndicate was coming. And for the first time, they weren't hunting helpless prey. They were walking into a trap. Benver Station drifted in the dark like a fat, lazy parasite clinging to a dead moon. Fuel depots ringed its outer hull like swollen blisters. Each one packed with volatile chemicals worth more than most frontier colonies. The Syndicate fleet hung nearby, massive shapes blotting out the stars. Their warships docked and feeding like predators at a kiln. Inside the station, nothing felt wrong. Music played in the common rings. Dock workers cursed and laughed. Syndicate crews moved through corridors with casual confidence, weapons slung low, armor unlocked. They believed themselves untouchable. They always did. That belief was their first mistake. Ryan moved through a maintenance corridor with his strike group spread behind him. The air smelled of oil and recycled sweat. His cybernetics fed him a steady stream of data heart rates, motion pings, thermal ghosts through walls. Too many enemies. Too many angles. And only one nullifier. He tightened his grip on the weapon and felt its familiar hum vibrate through his arms. The humans moved differently than Zists. Where Zists favored direct paths and brute force, the humans flowed through tight spaces, slipping into shadows, spreading out without needing orders. It was unsettling. And impressive a human. Woman tapped his shoulder and pointed up. Ryan followed her gaze. A ceiling panel hung loose, just enough to hide a person-sized opening. Secondary control hub, she whispered. Runs station security feeds. Ryan nodded. He lifted one of his lower arms and signaled. Two humans peeled off and vanished. Upward without a sound. Seconds later, station lights flickered. Not enough to alarm anyone, just enough to feel. Wrong. Across the station, Syndicate guards paused mid-step. Some frowned. Some checked wrist displays. A few laughed it off. Ryan smiled. A sharp clacking sound escaping his Mandy-less. Now, the first shots came from Dock Ring 3. Human-led throwers barked thunder into the metal corridors. Syndicate goons dropped before they could raise their rifles. Stunned faces frozen in confusion as their powered weapons failed silently. Ryan surged forward. The corridor erupted into chaos. Shouts, screams, the stench of scorched armor and blood. Arondar charged him, massive and horned. Swinging a shock maul that should have caved Ryan's chest in, the nullifier flared. The maul died. Mid-swing, Ryan stepped inside the arc and brought both braking sticks down in a single brutal motion. Bone shattered. The Rondar collapsed like a felled tower. Humans whooped behind him, fear burning into wild joy. They pushed harder, faster, every kill feeding their momentum. This was not a careful operation anymore. This was a release. Across the station, similar scenes unfolded. Human boarding teams tore through docking clamps and cargo bays. Zist shock squads overwhelmed choke points. Syndicate command tried to rally forces, but their communications died in bursts of static as human slicers gutted their systems. And then the warships noticed. On the bridge of the first cruiser, alarms howled. A GRU noble captain rose from his command throne, armored carapace gleaming under red lights. How did they get aboard? He roared. No one answered him. A human? Charge team breached the bridge seconds later. The captain watched in disbelief as his guards' rifles failed, one by one. He saw humans with simple, ugly weapons advance through plasma fire that never came. He saw a four-armed green alien at the front, eyes cold, movements precise. Wielding strength like a surgeon uses a blade. The GRU noble understood then. This was not a raid. This was a message. Ryan stormed the bridge and took it in a heartbeat. The captain survived because Ryan wanted him alive. The braking sticks shattered his knees, pinned him to the deck, and silenced his arrogance with pain. You will speak, Ryan said calmly, and you will listen. On the second cruiser, the humans did something worse. They took engineering. Explosions rippled through reactor, shielding not enough to destroy the ship, but enough to show how easily it could be done. Engineers fled their posts. The ship drifted, helpless and blind. The third cruiser tried to flee it. It never cleared the station. Human ships' old freighters, refitted with illegal weapons, latched onto its hull like insects. Boarding pods slammed. Home lead throwers thundered through airlocks. The legend of the lead dealer walked through fire. No one saw him clearly. They never did, only flashes. A black coat moving through smoke. A calm voice cutting through panic. Syndicate elites fell with holes punched clean through armor that had never failed them before. When the fighting ended, Benver Station was silent. Bodies littered the corridors. Fires burned low, where emergency systems struggled to cope. 3. Warships sat captured, crippled, or dead in space. Ryan stood on the primary cruiser's bridge, staring at the Syndicate captain kneeling before him. The GRU's pride was gone now, stripped away by the impossible. You will return to your masters, Ryan said. You will tell them this? He leaned closer, voice low. The frontier is closed, not to trade, not to peace, but to you. The captain hissed in pain and hatred. They will come again, he spat. With fleets. Ryan straightened. Good. Hours later, the humans gathered in the station's central bay. Wounded were treated, ammunition redistributed. Ships refueled from Syndicate stockpiles. Anita leaned against the crate, chewing on a ration bar. Well, she said lightly. That escalated nicely. The lead dealer stood beside her, silent. As ever, Ryan approached them, his armor stained dark. You have done what you've promised, Ryan said. My people will remember this. Anita shrugged. Your people fought hard. Humans respect that. The lead dealer finally spoke. This was a test, he said. Ryan tilted his head. Of what? The human's eyes were cold, thoughtful. Of whether the frontier could be held? Ryan followed his gaze to the captured warships, floating like prizes in the dark. Ryan asked. The human smiled, slow and dangerous. Now, he said, we see who dares to take it back. The stars outside Benva Station seemed very quiet and very afraid. The frontier did not sleep after Benva Station fell. It held its breath. Across empty systems and forgotten trade lanes, signals spread. Syndicate channels went dark. Smuggler relays whispered. Mercenary boards exploded with half-true rumors and raw fear. 3 warships lost. A station taken without warning. Humans involved. That last detail changed everything. Ryan stood on the observation deck of the captured cruiser, looking out at the stars. The ship was scarred, but alive, its systems slowly bending under human-inzist hands. Engineers worked in shifts, tearing out control locks, bypassing failsafes, forcing alien systems to obey. He felt something strange settle in his chest. Hope? Heavy. Dangerous. Unfamiliar. Behind him, Anita paced, hands busy with a data slate. Colin Chatter is going insane, she said. Every independent human group wants in now. Salvage crews, gun hands, even farmers with rifles. Ryan turned slightly. Why? She looked up, eyes sharp. Because fear travels faster than money. And right now, the Syndicate is afraid. That word tasted good. The lead dealer entered without sound. His coat was scorched at the edges. Fresh blood darkened one sleeve, not his own. He ignored the wound. They're moving, he said. Ryan's antenna lifted. Who? The Syndicate? Not toward the frontier. A pause. Away from it. Anita let out a low whistle. Didn't expect that. The lead dealer's mouth tightened. I did. Ryan frowned. They still outnumber us. They still have fleets. Yes, the human said. But not certainty. And not control. He activated the holotable. Star maps bloomed into the air, dotted with red and blue marks. Syndicate holdings blinked, then began to dim, one by one. They're pulling assets back toward the core, the lead dealer continued. Consolidating. Trying to protect leadership. Ryan stared. Then we bought time. No, the human corrected. You changed the rules. Word reached Many Eggs Colony 2 days later. Ryan stood before the Hive Elders as cheers echoed through the chambers. For the first time in generations, no alarm pheromones clouded the air. Hatchlings played openly. Warriors stood without weapons. The message was clear. The Syndicate had withdrawn. Not defeated, but shaken. The Hive leader studied Ryan carefully. You succeeded, he said. But success invites consequence. Ryan inclined his head. I know. The humans, another elder said. They are not like us. No, Ryan agreed. They are worse. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. And better, Ryan added. Back at Benva Station, the captured Grenoble was released. Ryan watched as the battered captain limped toward his shuttle, hatred burning in his eyes. The Gru paused at the ramp. You think this ends it? The noble hissed. The Syndicate will adapt. Ryan leaned on his braking sticks. So will we. The shuttle departed. Silence followed. Anita crossed her arms. You really think they'll listen? The lead dealer watched the stars. No. Then why let him go? Because fear works better when it's delivered alive. Weeks passed. Human convoys arrived at the frontier. Not fleets. Not armies. Individuals. Families. Crews. old ships patched together with stubborn hope and illegal guns. They brought food, medicine, ammunition, and stories. Ryan trained beside them, learned their tactics, their jokes, their strange habit of laughing before fights, not after. He saw something unsettling. Humans did not see the frontier as a boundary. They saw it as an invitation. One night, alarms sounded again. Ryan was on his feet instantly, armor snapping into place. Anita burst into the room. "Long-range scan," she said. "Multiple contacts. Not Syndicate." Ryan followed her to the command pit. The hull showed unfamiliar ship designs. Clean lines. Military discipline. Fed transponders. Ryan's mandibles tightened. "The Federal Union," he said quietly. The lead dealer stepped forward. "They've been watching." A transmission cut through the room. Crisp, polite, dangerous. "This is Commander Halvik, of the Federal Union Expeditionary Fleet. You are operating captured military vessels without authorization. Power down and prepare for inspection." Silence hung heavy. Anita broke it. "Inspection, my ass." Ryan looked at the humans around him. At Zists, standing shoulder to shoulder with them. At ships held together by will more than metal. "They will not negotiate," Ryan said. "They never do." The lead dealer nodded. "They don't need to. And we cannot fight them," Ryan added. "Not like this." The human smiled faintly. "Correct?" He turned to the hala and opened a channel. "This is the frontier," he said calmly. "Inspection denied." A pause. Then laughter crackled over the channel. "Unwise," Commander Halvik replied. "You are surrounded." The lead dealer's voice did not change. "We know." Ryan felt it then. That old familiar tightening in his chest. The feeling before collapse, before death, before choice. Anita leaned closer to Ryan. "This is the part where humans do something stupid," she whispered. "What?" Ryan asked. She grinned. "We make it expensive." Across the station, human crews moved without panic. Power was rerouted, transmitters activated. Messages flared into the void, racing along every smuggler route and forgotten channel. The call went out. 2 colonies. 2 mercenaries. To anyone who had ever lived beyond Fed law. The message was simple. They are here. If they take the frontier today, they take you tomorrow. Ryan watched the Fed fleet advance, confident and orderly. And for the first time since his people fled into the dark, he did not feel small. He felt dangerous. Very far away, in the heart of the core worlds, leaders watched reports scroll across their screens. Human activity rising. Human activity rising. Frontier unrest spreading. Allied species refusing compliance. One analyst leaned back, uneasy. "Sir," he said quietly, "they're not retreating." The commander frowned. "Then what are they doing?" The analyst swallowed. "They're organizing." Out in the cold dark of space, Ryan lifted his braking sticks and spoke softly, more to himself than anyone else. "They asked us to unleash the humans." The stars seemed to lean closer. "And now," Ryan said, "they get to see what that really means." The Federal fleet did not fire. Not at first. They hovered at the edge of the frontier like predators testing the air, sleek ships holding perfect formation. Their confidence was old, polished by centuries of victories against species that broke, surrendered, or begged. Humans did none of those things. Ryan stood on the bridge of the captured cruiser, watching new signals bloom across the tactical display. Ships were arriving from places no official map acknowledged. Converted cargo haulers. Mining rigs bristling with weapons. Old human warships thought scrapped decades ago. They came without orders. They came because someone had crossed a line. Anita stared at the display, her voice low. That's a lot more than I expected. The lead dealer did not look surprised. Humans don't like being told where they're allowed to exist. A new signal broke through the noise. Encrypted. Human-built frontier coalition. This is Freehold 7. We're inbound. We heard someone needs help. Another followed. This is Red Dust Convoy. Fed ships detected. Weapons hot. Then more.
More?
And more. Ryan felt his wings tremble. They are not citizens, he said quietly. The Fed never accepted them. The lead dealer's eyes stayed on the stars. That cuts both ways. The Fed commander hailed them again, irritation creeping into his perfect tone. This escalation is unnecessary. Power down and submit to arbitration. Anita snorted. That's Fed 4, we'll decide who lives. Ryan stepped forward. His voice was steady when he spoke. Commander Helvik, this is Ryan of Meniax. You aided the Syndicate in enslaving my people. Your people are not recognized, Helvik replied flatly. Ryan's mandibles clacked once. Then, neither are your laws. The channel went silent. Seconds stretched. Then the Fed fleet adjusted formation. Weapons ports opened. Anita exhaled slowly. Here we go. The first shot did not come from the humans or the Zists. It came from somewhere unexpected. A long-range kinetic strike slammed into the flank of a Fed escort ship, ripping armor apart in a shower of molten fragments. No energy signature. No warning. A human mining rig drifted into view, its improvised rail cannon glowing. A calm human voice followed. Sorry, slipped. Chaos erupted. Fed ships tried to bring nullifiers online, but it was already too late. Lead throwers roared. Kinetic weapons ignored power suppression. Boarding craft screamed across the void, slamming into hulls with reckless precision. Humans did not fight clean. They fought like survivors. Ryan led a boarding team through a breached air, breaking sticks, crushing armored soldiers who had never fought an enemy that refused to retreat. Humans flowed around him, shouting warnings, dragging wounded back, covering each other, without hesitation. A Fed officer raised a plasma rifle. It never fired. Anita put 3 rounds into his chest before he could pull the trigger. Move! She shouted. They pushed forward, faster than doctrine allowed, harder than reason suggested. The Fed crews broke first. Training failed when faced with people who treated death as a cost, not an outcome. On the bridge of the lead-fed cruiser, Commander Helvik watched his fleet fracture. This is madness, he muttered. A console chimed. Sir, an aide whispered, terrified. More signals, non-aligned systems. Even some registered colonies. Helvik turned slowly. Why? The aide swallowed. Because if the frontier falls, the core is next. The realization hit him too late. This was not a rebellion. It was a precedent. Hours later, silence returned to the frontier. Fed ships burned or fled. Wounded vessels limped back toward the core, carrying stories they could not erase. Ryan stood among the survivors in the hangar of Benva Station. Humans and Zists sat on the deck, exhausted, bloodied, laughing in disbelief. They were alive. The lead dealer approached Ryan. This ends one of 2 ways now. Ryan looked up. Which? They negotiate, the human said. Or they keep pushing until everything burns. Ryan thought of his colony. Of hatchlings who might now grow up without chains. Of humans who had no home except the line they had just drawn in space. And if they negotiate? Ryan asked. The lead dealer's mouth curved slightly. Then we teach them something new. Anita leaned against a crate, bruised but smiling. Rule 1 of dealing with humans, she said. Don't back us into a corner. Rule 2, Ryan asked. She gestured at the wreckage outside the viewport. Never ask what we're willing to unleash. Far away, deep within Fed space, emergency councils formed. Analysts replayed footage, slow-motion clips of humans charging nullifier zones, of Zysts standing unbroken, of alliances forming without permission. One official whispered what none wanted to admit. They didn't win because they were stronger. Another finished the thought. They won because they chose each other. Back on the frontier, Ryan looked at the stars and felt something he had never felt before. Not safety, not peace, but possibility. The frontier was no longer a place to run to. It was a place to stand. And somewhere in the dark, every power in the galaxy learned the same lesson. You could ignore the outcasts. You could exploit the desperate. But if you ever forced them to fight together, you didn't face a species. You faced a storm. And this time, the storm had a name. Unleash the humans.